Welcome one more day to Space in Harmonia. And today I would like to address the issue of the global energy shutdown, which some governments are now saying it's going to take place, probably. Some people ask me about what I think if it's necessary to store food, as some governments are suggesting. Even here in Europe, especially Germany and Switzerland, governments told people to store goods of first necessity, especially food and certain devices to get heat in periods of scarcity, energy scarcity, or even the total shutdown of electricity, gas, even nuclear power would be shut down. But they are not telling the true cause, at least this is not being told openly in the media, which is obviously transmitting these news that come from official organisms. So this is not an invention, this is reality. Something is happening. Even supplies in supermarkets are not as before, the prices are higher because something is happening with the change of supplying food and other goods. But we have to understand why all this is happening. There is a sort of globalist green ideology which says humanity is responsible for global warming, for squandering energy. And there is a mix of truth and lie in that. Global warming is not a direct result of this humanity. It comes from unstable events that took place a long time ago. And obviously humanity is very irresponsible. It's true that we squander lots of energy, but this is not because humanity in itself, but due to the system that has been implemented. Ignorance is rampant, business is rampant, control is rampant, and that has been implemented by governments, not the civil population. Civil population, in any case, are victims or are being controlled and brainwashed by those who are in power. And in case there is a global energy shutdown, it will be done on purpose because they want to implement other types of energy, which, being greener, as they say, or cleaner, can still be used to generate business. This is my idea, and I'm going to develop it a bit further. I think the kind of energy that we are getting from explosions, nuclear plants, electricity, obviously is a way of exploiting nature. I don't doubt about that. It's true we live in a very wild, savage civilization, but as I said, it's due to ignorance and those who have the power. Because those implemented the explosive motors, the nuclear plants, and now globalist governments want to make a shift and presume they are green and they are protecting the planet with what they call clean energies. But the problem is that those energies are produced by means which are ridiculous. You cannot provide as much energy as society is requiring nowadays, only with solar panels or windmills or the water, or even some devices like those installed under the pavements on the streets to generate energy with the steps of people. You can generate local energy and obviously supply energy in local areas, but they don't want that. They want a globalist economy with a higher trend of energy supply in order to keep the consumerism going. So they don't want local economies, they want global economies, and they need to implement green energies on a greater scale. And they are more expensive. They cost more money because, as I said, they cannot produce as much energy as nuclear plants and so on. Some say, well, we have the new nuclear energy known as fusion energy, which is cleaner. And it will be available around 2050 for the population. But this is another scam because fusion energy is produced by fusing atoms using huge amounts of energy, which those retarded scientists that work in labs try to produce using certain machines, something you don't find in the sun. In the sun you have fusion energy, supposedly. It's very cold. The sun is hot outside but freezing inside. And the kind of fusion energy produced in labs has nothing to do with the fusion energy of the sun, which is based on a different way of generating energy, as we are going to see. And fusion energy will become another business. They will charge you for using that energy. Because, of course, you are ignorant, you are irresponsible, and you don't have the right to use something which in reality is free, because energy in the cosmos is free. You don't have to pay for it, but they are masking that with the so-called green policies. They even hire saviors like Greta Thunberg, who understand nothing about the workings of the universe. Most ecologists are ignorant people. They presume of being very clean and very protective, very loving, but they don't understand nature. And they are serving to those power-possessing controllers who are in governments, presuming now of being globalists, but they are socio-communists in disguise, or Nazis in disguise. They are pretending to be something they are not, using as shield ecologists, green policies, and so on. So here you have a way of conditioning population little by little. And first of all, they inject the feeling of guilt. You are responsible for killing the planet. Now we are going to implement hard measures. They say you are going to be deprived from energy because there is an energy crisis and you have caused it. You are responsible. So, sorry, if you want more energy, you have to pay. This is why some governments are raising the prices. Here in Spain, the government rose the price of electricity and gas savagely, and people have protested. So now they are lowering down the prices a bit, but they are still too high. And they say it's because Algeria cut off the supply of gas and other things, but this is done on purpose. They are preparing the population little by little. And I think there will come a time in the near future in which, if they implement those new measures of energy distribution, they might make a sort of ration card with which you can only spend a certain amount of energy. And if you want more energy, you have to pay twice, thrice, or even 4 times more. This is a time to get people accustomed to a different energy, which supposedly is cleaner. It would come from solar panels, windmills, and all these devices, which are just rough work, ridiculous in comparison with other natural capacitors, which are even present in nature. We don't have to do anything, but obviously that's kept away from the population. It's not interesting to make people know how energy works in the universe. So I think we won't have a global energy shutdown for 1 month or 2 months, as some people are claiming. That would be too much. You would have riots on the streets, safety measures wouldn't work in shops, in buildings. There would be chaos, and it would be out of control even for those who have military power, because there are criminal organizations that also have military equipment, and they would be rampant if the energy shutdown is taking place, because obviously they would want control over certain sources of water, food, anything that can keep going the mechanisms. And the governments don't want that. Even if they are preparing now military mechanisms, as in Switzerland or in Germany, they say we have prepared military groups to prevent riots on the streets. That was said by the government in Switzerland, and Angela Merkel, more than a year ago, told the population of Germany to store goods, and also spoke about more measures. So it's a fact, but I think they are just scaring. If there is a global energy shutdown, it would come by means of a piece of nature, or stepmother nature, a meteorite or something greater, earthquakes, things like this, not something done on purpose by the governments, which want just to scare people a little bit so that they can keep controlling, as they have done with the plan Psychodemia, implementing the false BACCINES, which are now killing more people than the bug. And that's useful because you keep people controlled, poisoned, and therefore you keep business going. You can charge for medicines and treatments and keep the big pharmas going, just as other companies. So everything is based on a mechanism of business control, brainwashing. But we don't have to be scared about all this if we understand how to survive in this jungle of shameless, power-possessing leaders. And I think they are also masking the so-called free energy, which is all over, and it's based on capacitance, the way to store energy and not only regenerate, but also produce more energy, because everything is full of energy. There is no void, there is no emptiness in an absolute sense. There are waves of energy all over, and this has been demonstrated by many inventors, from More to Nikola Tesla to even more recent inventors. But of course, many of them were murdered, as Nikola Tesla, for instance. He appeared dead in his hotel room the day before having an interview with the president of the US to speak about what he had invented. He even built up a tower that could distribute energy for free, a capacitor and a distributor of energy. But obviously that was cut off. He didn't receive the necessary fundings because the electric companies and other companies were not interested, obviously, because that doesn't make money if you give people free access to energy. Some would say, well, people is irresponsible, they wouldn't know how to handle energy. Educate people, don't keep them in boxes, sitting on desks, hearing lies as they usually do in schools, which don't prepare people for living in harmony with the universe. They brainwash kids and tell huge amount of lies so that they can suffer more and get out traumatized from the school, as most of us. Most of us were brainwashed, and some of us went into a deep crisis and had to find a way out. Even finding ways of healing without using medicines, as it was my case. I already told it. Doctors didn't help me to overcome many physical issues. I had to understand myself how energy works. And this is why I give this information. I open this channel and the other, Vital and Harmonia, giving simple principles of handling energy. And going back to the idea of capacitors, because the body is a capacitor. It stores energy, like trees, plants in general. Galaxies are capacitors. They store energy by swirling in a certain way, like vortices. Everything has vortices to generate energy in nature. And most capacitors invented by several people also are based on vortex-like configurations to absorb the energy from the environment and generate more. So if you educate people and give that, there wouldn't be any problem, because everything would be based on harmonia. But there are a few who are in control and are not willing to give up, but they are just digging their own grave, not only because they don't have a soul, or if they have a soul, it's contaminated, but because nature herself is going to charge them. Everyone who is not in tune with the cosmos will pay very seriously. Especially now, we are approaching 2022, 222. That sums up 6. 6 is the energy of harmonia, beauty, uniting the spirit and matter. So next year, many will be in trouble if they are not in tune with the energy of the cosmos. Even governments, they won't be able to implement their tyrannical policies, their so-called Agenda 2030, which has a communist anthem. You will have nothing and you will be happy. They don't tell you the greatest truth. You have everything. It's a lie that you can be happy having nothing. No, you can only be truly blissful when you have all the energies from the universe arriving and giving you the possibility to distribute that with love, with generosity, being in harmony with others. So this is one of the greatest lies that they want to implement. They want a supposedly clean society based on digital means, on the so-called metaverse. They want digital brains, people that are like robots. In most cases, people are robotized, mechanized. They don't think on their own, and this is why they listen to these scammers from science, politics, religion. And this is not the end. Obviously, there are beings here who came to tell another way of managing our energy. I leave down below a documentary on FreeEnergy so that you can see how even inventors were denied the patent of free energy devices. One of them is Adam Trombley. Some tried to kill him. I know a case here in Spain of a man who has invented a sort of device that can generate electricity on its own without external supplies. And he lives in the fields, in the countryside. But we will see for how long he is able to survive. Because these globalist murderers get rid of many of those who want to present that for free for everyone. I am aware that many of those who have invented free energy devices or natural medicines wanted a patent that would not be used for business. I know that because they said it, and they were not allowed to get the patent. Because patents in science are used to make business, to have control, to have power over knowledge, over people. But that's coming to an end. If our civilization does not get in tune with the universe, will be wiped out as Prometheic civilizations. Curiously, Prometheus was the archetype of the intelligence that promotes metis. Metis is the way to getting out of problems, solving problems, breaking the spells. So Prometis, Prometheus, or Enki as it was called, the Lord of the Earth. And that was in contrast with Epimetheus, the brother of Prometheus. Epi is low, down, below. So below metis, below intelligence. And this is what happens with humanity. It's retarded, it's subnormal, because it's below what is normal in a universe that works with free energy. And what happened to Prometheic civilizations, who had greater technological intelligence, so to say, is that they use free energy for egotistic purposes, and they were destroyed for that. They knew free energy devices. That's how they built up the pyramids and many other incredible monuments. They could raise huge stones with electromagnetism. They could generate anti-gravity by means of electromagnetic means. But they also extracted electricity from nature widely. So nature turned against them. So this is not a question of exploiting nature with free energy devices, no. Free energy is based on a global view of sharing, of being in harmonia. Therefore, this is not a question of going back to Prometheic philosophies. Enki, the Lord of the Earth, was another archetype connected to this Promethean view, which was wiped out. And modern technological societies have inherited part of that knowledge, but they still misuse it, always to control people, because they descend, in a way, from Promethean civilizations that were not in tune, really, with the universe. Therefore, we need to find again within ourselves the true wisdom and understanding to be in harmonia, handling our energy. Our body is a capacitor. We have a crown, we have the feet. There you have the two poles, the positive and the negative, which is absorbing. We can also perform certain relaxations to be in tune with this flow of energy. This is something we do in the course Harmonitherapy. And I provide people with a certain way of recovering this lost wisdom, understanding our personality, the way we eat, the way we absorb energy, because energy does not only come from physical food, but mostly from impressions and the breathing. The breath is full of energy. So we can get much energy from our experiences. And by getting used to eat less, we can also increase the efficiency of the body, the emotions, our thoughts. There is another channel where I speak a little bit more about that. Tell me in the comments if you would be interested in a further explanation on food, physical food. For instance, I no longer need a huge amount of animal protein. Even I can stay without animal protein. I eat mostly starchless vegetables. I can use a little bit of starch, potato, to satiate, or even other starches which are mucus forming, but they can be used in small proportions. And since I have cleaned my body a little bit more, I can also eat fruit without problems, because fruit is very dissolving. It accelerates the purification, and therefore you will feel more appetite, and some reactions might take place in the body if you eat too much fruit. Even though fruit is one of the most natural foods for the body. Now, in case there is cutting off of the supply, especially gas and electricity, there are ways of heating with candles. Even in Germany and Switzerland, people are getting to know these ways, just in case. And there are also foods you can store, which are not perishable. Maybe rice or olives or pasta. If you have something to heat the water, a portable oven, for instance, you can get ovens that you can heat. The only problem would be the smoke, but if you cook near the window, no problem. Those who have chimneys, that's an advantage. If you live in these places, you can get food from the trees. Here in front of me, there is an acorn tree. You have the ground full of acorns. The food of the warhawks, they get on the afternoon and the evening to eat. And one day I cook a few acorns on a pan, and they are not the natural food for us, but they can satiate the appetite. You can get many things from nature if you respect, if you know how to handle the environment. Those who don't know how to handle the environment are the so-called ecologists. I know this because my uncle works in the mountains, and he knows things about how to handle the forest. He knows many people involved in true work with the forests. And ecologists only want to forbid, to implement measures for the globalist governments, which are using those ecologists for their green policies, their way of saving the planet. And the kind of measures implemented by ecologists are usually more destructive for the forests and the fields than most people believe. But this is not told, obviously. Now I think I have given enough clues so you can think on your own. If you want to leave comments or make questions, please feel free to do it on the box of comments. I will leave a link. You have a blog, themusicofwisdom.blogspot.com, a web, a course where we can go deeper on self-knowledge, the vital handling of energy. And the next video is going to be even shorter. I will be treating the issue of overcoming the main chief love that sinks us down into this matrix, into this self-deception. Because we have to know how deception works in order to overcome deception. And there is a way of classifying that with the semiotic tree, the Enneagram, and we can know ourselves better using art in a more conscious and creative way. And for now, thank you very much for listening. And now let's keep cleaning the mind and the heart to get rid of all this sense of guilt, this ignorance, the lies, so that we can open ourselves more and more to the universal flow of infinite love that we can express, being part of the unmodified life, integral conscience, and deep, blissful serenity.